Hey, Sarah from Roots here, and I'm really excited to talk to you about sunchokes, Helianthus tuberosus, and we are going to talk about its edible root, aspects to look for, and the one way in which I really like to eat them. So this is something that you're going to want to identify in the fall. It's a late fall bloomer. You're going to see it in its high exalted form, and then you're going to want to mark that spot and come back to it in the springtime to dig up its roots. So there are some things that you're going to want to look for. You're going to want to learn to identify this as a plant. It's a wild sunflower. It shares some visual characteristics with that. So you're going to have these really tall plants, like 8-9 feet. They can tower above me, tower above Brad. And you're going to see this composite flower, yellow petals, yellow center, that have a sort of elegant simplicity to them. They are on top of these long, slender stalks that are hairy with these opposite leaves, except towards the very tip where they become alternate. So in the spring, this plant is a little harder to identify visually. We're left with sort of the dead stalks, the remains of the plant. And this really underscores the importance of how you want to learn plants through multiple seasons in which to really garner this as a skill. So here I have one of the old stalks. Either it's going to still be upright, or it's going to be pushed over, as you see so many here, by the snow from the winter. You can still see that the stalk has these short little hairs on it. They aren't as robust and thick as those classic sunflowers we all know out of the garden. You can see that it has opposite leaves in the leaf scar patterns, and then at the top where they become alternate at times. You are going to want to then dig into the roots. And so the roots can vary in their appearance based on whether they're wild or they're cultivated. What you're going to see are these really tuberous, swollen sections. And in wild forms, they're going to be a little bit thinner, and in cultivated forms, they've been produced to be much thicker and more robust. This is a good plant to know because it's really quite widely available, from wild stands to cultivated stands. So we're along the river here, down in the garden at the school, and right across the river there's this beautiful stand of wild sunchokes. Right here I was given a gift of these really beautiful red-skinned varieties that are cultivated, and that's what we're going to dig up. They're a little bit easier to eat. Some people think you digest them a little bit better. I just think that they're really beautiful, and I'm excited to work with them. I did plant them in my asparagus bed, and I will never make that mistake again. You want to plant them somewhere where they can just exist on their own forever. So they compete well with grass and are aggressive, which makes them a really wonderful food source. You know, this is something that's going to persist that you don't have to tend to for a long period of time. When it comes to eating and like survival skills or what that looks like, these pack a really dense carbohydrate punch, which is an advantage, and is something that you will be able to find and really fulfill that macronutrient quality. So if there is one way that I'm going to eat Jerusalem artichokes, sunchokes, fartichokes, it's going to be through lactofermentation. Or even a quick pickling is great. I really enjoy that. But we're going to lactoferment these. I've scrubbed them down. Don't want any sand. And what's really nice is that their skin is really smooth and really easy to clean. So it makes for easy work. And I'm just going to do a really simple process and put them in a saltwater brine solution and let them ferment for a few days. What's happening here is that I'm gonna roughly chop the big ones, throw the small ones in whole, and put them into a 2% brine solution. So I'm just gonna pick through these ones, pick out the choice ones that don't have any blemishes in them, and load them up and cram them into this quart jar, throwing in these tiny ones that look great whole. And I'm going to throw the small ones in first, such that the bigger ones will hold them down. I also have a handy little weight, so that's going to make for simple work. You know, the joke is that, aka fartachoke, and that these can create a lot of gas in people. Sometimes as a minor upset, and sometimes really painful, and this seems to cut that out as being an issue. So it makes something that can be kind of intolerable something to be enjoyed, which is how food should be. There are other ways to prepare Jerusalem artichokes, and you can see baking, roasting, boiling, and I've liked these, you know, roasted before for sure, but this is the go-to for me. So there are many ways to prepare Jerusalem artichokes, but this is the way I like. I like it that it's simple, and I like that it really removes that gassy factor. So I put my roots into this jar, and I added about a 2% brine solution to it. You can measure it out by 2 tablespoons per quart, although I think that tends to be a little bit on the saltier side, and so I just weigh it out. I measure the water and then I weigh out the salt in grams. And I have a handy weight to keep this all submerged because we're looking for that anaerobic fermentation to occur. And so I'm going to keep this lid on, but not incredibly tight, and every day as the gases build up, I'll just sort of burp it slightly and let this go for about a week in a dark spot, at which point I'll test it, taste it, see how it's moving along, and then I can store it in the fridge indefinitely. But I find that this is the way to avoid the painful griping that can occur with Jerusalem artichokes, and then makes them a really delightful, crunchy, good for you food. If you like this, do the thing, like and subscribe.